T-24. He was an animal that was accused of killing people who entered his territory in the jungles of India. And it was controversial because of that very reason, that the attacks occurred within the animal's territory. And in India, there are laws that protect these animals, especially when they kill a human inside their own space. Okay, which is called the core area, which we talk about quite a bit in the film. It went all the way to the High Court and the Supreme Court. I happen to be the guy, the filmmaker, with the only professional, 4K footage of this animal. I was following him before he became a controversy, before he went to the High Court and all this stuff.
Right.
So initially, I was just making a documentary on a wild tiger and behavior and trying to get great shots of whatever, and kind of maybe it's conservation. But then all of a sudden, he became an icon for conservation.
So did you know about Tiger, like T-24 and his man-eating stories about the 4 people he had killed?
No, and it was impossible because the killing was happening while I was filming him. So in between safaris, there was one right in 2010. I saw him in 2012. In 2012, he killed 2 people. And then the next kill was 2015 when I wasn't in the Tiger Reserve.
Which one of the victims was the most harrowing for you to cover? Like most difficult in terms of brutality, just the details of it? Which one really got to you?
Well, I mean, the first one is extremely brutal because if you look at he ate his hamstrings, he ate his glutes out, he ripped his arm off. The second one is also pretty extreme, Ashfaq, where he decapitated him. He like ripped out his he separated his upper from his lower body. I didn't show all those shots. I mean, I have all of them, but I just, out of respect, I wanted to keep it down. But that one, he literally, it's like, it's almost like you and I taking like a chicken and just ripping it apart. So it was pretty extreme. The third attack, the body is still intact, and so is the fourth one. But they're all, it's this beast that just comes at you that has got a bite force that you couldn't imagine. Has got strength that you don't have, and even if you punch it in the head, it's got like plates of bone that just will break your hand when you punch it, and it's extreme. I mean, it's
tremendously powerful.
If a tiger decides I'm going to kill you right now, it's like it's over, lights out, in a flash, you're done. There's no I have a chance. You're done. It's over.
What is your opinion? Do you think that T-24 did it based on all the evidence?
Yeah, I think it's most likely that he did. I mean, he had a history of killing people, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely his territory. The argument that it was Sultan is an incredibly weak one, almost impossible, because Sultan left Ranthambore in January 2015 after a huge fight with T-24, where T-24 just kicked his ass, way more than in the movie. You see the December 2013 fight where T-24 let Sultan go.
Yeah.
Sultan tried that again in Jan 2015. The fight went on for days, overnight, and T-24 just destroyed him, and he just literally ran away to Keladevi. So he wasn't even there, okay?
Yeah.
Noor has no history of killing anybody or anything, and she was not seen that day. T-24 is a tiger to come back. Now, I'm going to say it's most likely that he did the killing. However, I can't say definitively, right? Because there was no video footage of him leaping up and like killing this man. Even the only eyewitness, Shankar Lal Saini, who I talked to in the film, the guy with that very blue shirt or purple blue shirt,
right?
He said, "Look, I can't tell you which tiger it was. So if you want to be completely exact, like DNA, we're in a court, and then I mean, we don't know because there wasn't any DNA taken, but it's less likely to be any other tiger and most likely to be T-24. But I mean, it's the controversy around it allows us to talk about the need for DNA and should that have been used or should it be used in the future?
Yeah. Wow. So basically, okay, so you think it was T24, but then most people are still on the fence about it, is what you're saying.
Well, I haven't done a survey, but certainly that's part of the controversy. Like, so
Yeah.
the activists who are against the removal of T24 use this argument to bolster their argument, right? It's
Yeah.
like they're like, "Oh, you don't know which tiger it is." So if
Yeah.
you're, I mean, most like a lot of like any kind of activism, you try to exacerbate your points to make your case, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the other side, we see this in the U.S. with politics, with the Democrats and Republicans. Everything is polarity and everything's exaggerated. And then what I don't like about that is then you don't really make any progress, right?
Yeah.
So the goal in the film was to show both sides and to show the nuance in all of this, to hopefully realize that there isn't a clear answer. While we want one as humans, we want to make a choice because we want certainty, we want a black and white answer. There really isn't one in making wildlife calls with tiger management, because you make the best call given the information you have and the experience you have,
Hmm.
and it's never a perfect call. If I really sit down with the government officials and I push them to a wall and say, like, was this the right call, they're going to be like, it was probably the best call we could have made, is their opinion. It wasn't a perfect call. It wasn't like they were like, yes, 100%. There was still discussion about it, and they could have removed him after attack one, or potentially if there was 10 attacks, attack 10. It's a decision they have to make at some point. And it's sort of like, I don't know, I'm not a parent, but I imagine like you have a child who's kind of a bit of a bad kid, and he did something a little bit bad in school, and you're like, oh yeah, it's my son, and he'll never do it again. Then he does it again, does
Hmm.
it the third time, and he killed someone. You're like, okay, there's something wrong with this kid now. We
Yeah.
have to put him
Yeah.
somewhere in an
Yeah.
institution or something. But you let it go the first couple of
Hmm.
times because you love this kid and you
Hmm.
don't want anything, and you're hoping this kid will change. So the government and Valmik Thapar and people like that looked at T24 that way, like, please don't attack again.
Yeah. Stop
Please, yeah,
killing.
yeah, because they love this tiger. They covered up for him in the beginning. They've
Wow.
tranquilized to help him. They've built the tiger reserve in a way to protect these animals. So they're not interested in removing T24. They felt like we've given him enough chances, and this is a good decision in the interest of conservation. And at the time when they removed him, emotions were high for everybody. The
Hmm.
villagers were upset. The state government was like getting calls like, what is this tiger doing? And if you go back like one attack previous, the Gisu Singh attack, there was
Yeah.
pressure then to remove T24. And YK Sahu, the field director at the time, who's interviewed, even though he knew the danger, he was like, I'm not removing this tiger. And the chief wildlife warden above him at the time, who's not in this film, also said, do not remove the tiger because his behavior is normal and we don't know what happened. Did this guard go in? Did the guard
Hmm.
provoke him? We don't really know, but you've seen the film. It's one of the most riveting sequences.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
protected the animal. They used firecrackers to get him to go up in the hill. Then they put
Hmm.
a Jeep here. They come in between. They pulled this body out. They didn't go and just shoot the tiger. That was incredible. So if you've been through this with your tiger, like you've gone through hell to keep him alive while you take
Yeah.
out the person he just killed. Now you've got a whole new. You're like, man, please don't do this again. And he does it again. You're like, okay, that's it. I can't take it anymore.
Yeah. It's
You
like
know?
they gave him literally four, like three strikes, and then the fourth one was it,
Right,
essentially.
right. But if you're, an activist at home in your boxers on the computer, and you're like, I think this is wrong, and I don't like this, but you're not going to do anything. You're not going to be actually in the
Yeah.
field doing things, and that I think is the difference. Not to put the activists down, not to say that their thoughts are not valuable. They are valuable because it does stir up, controversy to think about what we're doing with these tigers. I think it is true, but it's also important to realize that how much are they investing in tiger conservation?
Right.
Are they on the ground every day? Are they really taking care of these tigers? Because in India, the state government owns these animals, and they
Okay.
take care of them every day. They monitor them every day. They know way more than you think they know. I know this because I talk to them, and
Hmm.
if you talk to the field director, you would think, oh, he doesn't know what's going on. He knows everything that's going on, which tiger's injured, what's happening here, what's happening there. And you need to go in and talk to them to realize this and make them comfortable with your position as a filmmaker as to what you're trying to do, which is why I had access, because I always said, I'm going to tell the real story. I am going to show both sides, but I need to get the real information from you, which is why I had a lot of access.
Wow. So, okay, you mentioned that tranquilizing. So I remember that in the documentary, they had tranquilized T-24 because he had a thorn stuck in his paw.
Yeah.
And they were questioning whether this human interference, like Valak was saying it as well, that
Balmic, yes. Yeah.
Valnik, sorry, this might not be the right thing to do. And do you think that contributed to T-24's kind of not hate towards humans, but caution towards them?
I think it's an interesting theory, and I think there's validity there. I think so. The way to think about it is,
Mm-hmm.
this thorn was actually an alien species introduced in Ranthambore for firewood. So right there we can see the first level of interference, right? Then this thorn goes into his paw, and now he's infected or whatever is going on, and maybe he would have died from it. I don't know. Should we have taken a rising star dominant male tiger and let him just get septicemia and die? Maybe. I think that's Valmic's position on it. But if you're the field director, or if you're the chief wildlife warden, you're doing tiger management. You're managing the tiger reserve. So at the time, there weren't enough dominant males, and they made this call to keep this guy going. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now he
Mm-hmm.
woke up mid-surgery and saw all these people around him, and the theory is after that, he started killing and all this stuff. I think it's certainly possible, because we've all had animals that get traumatized and then they have this thing going on in their head. So I think it's very likely that is what caused the issue. But I will say it's not an absolute theory, because there are other animals in this tiger reserve that have been tranquilized, and they've had to like slap them on their ass to wake them up out of the anesthesia and all kinds of things, which you could argue is even worse trauma. I don't know. and they're fine. They haven't killed anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what we're dealing with here is a great theory, but it's not a complete theory. And I think, again, this demonstrates the need to figure it out as a human. And I think sometimes we have to accept that we don't know everything about these animals,
Right.
and we have to
Right.
deal with what we know. What we do know is they needed violet space. The core area should not be compromised. Maintaining beautiful core areas for tigers is very important and good for them. It's also good for the environment. It's good for the other species underneath this keystone species that is a tiger. And I just think they're the most beautiful animal in the world. Like I said in the film, they're like works of art, because people get inspired looking at them, So to take away tigers would be to take away a piece of inspiration from the world. And I don't want to do that. And for all those reasons, I think what we know is keeping a big, healthy, beautiful core habitat for tigers is important. And I hope we continue to do that.
If you did enjoy this clip, then you will most definitely enjoy the full podcast, which is the video you see here on the left. And if you're more into a different style of video, then you can check out the video on the right about another man-eating tiger, this one also from India.